Juan Valentin Furagganan Ponce Enrile Sr., better known across the nation simply as J., lived a life that stretched across more than a century, a life marked by political storms, hard-won triumphs, and deeply human contradictions. Born on February 14, 1924, he carried within him a spirit that seemed shaped by both hardship and destiny. When he passed away on November 13, 2025, at the astonishing age of 101, the Philippines lost not just a political titan but a witness to, and a participant in, some of its most turbulent chapters. Enrile's legacy is carved into Philippine history. He served as the 26th President of the Senate from 2008 to 2013 and stood among the longest-serving lawmakers the country has ever known. Few public figures lived as long or remained as politically present as he did. His name was intertwined with the rise and fall of President Ferdinand Marcos, and later, with the pivotal 1986 People Power Revolution, a moment that forever changed the nation. Though once part of Marcos's inner circle, Enrile's dramatic break during the failed coup became a spark that helped ignite the revolution that toppled the dictatorship. Across his 4 Senate terms, lasting more than 22 years, he became one of the most enduring actors in the legislative landscape. And in a testament to his unrelenting will, he made a final return to public office at 98 years old, serving as chief presidential legal counsel under President Bongbong Marcos until his death. At the time of his passing, his estimated net worth was around $2 million. Early life and education. Enrile's early life was shaped by emotional complexity and quiet struggle. Born out of wedlock in Gonzaga, Cagayan, he entered the world as Juan Valentin Furagganan, the child of Petra Furagganan, who had grown up with humble roots as the stepdaughter of a fisherman. His father, Alfonso Ponce Enrile, a Spanish mestizo lawyer and influential local politician, was already married, casting a shadow of secrecy and tension over Juan's birth. His childhood bore the marks of this fragmented beginning. Official documents say he was born in 1924, though records from the Aglapayan Church claim June 22, 1922. Whatever the exact date, young Juan grew up far from privilege, baptized as Juanito Furagganan, and only later reunited with the father who had left an absence in his early life. Reconnecting with Alfonso brought him to Manila, where he studied at St. James Academy in Malabon. Eventually, his father legally changed his name to Juan Ponce Enrile, a name that would one day echo through the country's political halls. Enrile proved himself academically brilliant. He graduated cum laude from Ateneo de Manila in 1949, and later from the University of the Philippines College of Law, also cum laude, joining the Sigma Rho fraternity. He ranked 11th in the 1953 bar examinations, astonishingly scoring a perfect mark in mercantile law. His intellectual hunger carried him across the ocean to Harvard Law School, where he earned a Master of Laws specializing in international tax law. His early career blended academia and practice. He taught law at Far Eastern University, worked in his father's law firm, and soon found himself drawn into national politics. By 1964, he was handling the legal affairs of then-Senator Ferdinand Marcos. When Marcos became president, Enrile entered the president's inner circle, marking the start of a political partnership that would shape decades of Philippine history. Personal life. To many Filipinos, he was Manong Johnny, an affectionate term suggesting both wisdom and age. He married Cristina Castañer Garcia, a Hispano-Filipina who later became the Philippine ambassador to the Holy See. Together they had 2 children, Juan Jr., Jack, who served in Congress, and Katrina, who now leads their family's business group, Jaka. His family connections extended into the arts through his half-sister, Armida Siguian Reyna, a celebrated singer and actress. But even towering lives are not free from scandal. Enrile's long-rumored affair with his chief of staff, Gigi Reyes, exploded into the public sphere in 1998, when his wife reportedly left him over accusations of infidelity. Their alleged relationship resurfaced during Senate controversies and the PDAF scandal, casting emotional strain and public scrutiny over his personal life and political career. Reyes, once described as the door to Enrile, eventually resigned amid waves of accusation and public drama. Juan Ponce Enrile's long and turbulent journey through Philippine political history began beside Ferdinand Marcos Sr., a partnership rooted in their shared northern origins. From the moment Marcos rose to power in 1965, Enrile stood close by, first as a young technocrat handling finance, customs, and justice, and later as the man Marcos entrusted with the nation's defenses. As tensions in the Philippines thickened in the late 1960s, Marcos turned increasingly to Enrile. By 1970, he appointed him Secretary of National Defense, where Enrile became one of the most powerful figures in the government. Behind closed doors, he witnessed, and helped shape, the dark architecture of what would become martial law. Enrile later recounted how Marcos ordered him, as early as 1969, to study the limits of presidential power, foreshadowing the storm that would soon engulf the nation. In September 1972, Marcos declared martial law, claiming rising chaos and an alleged ambush against Enrile himself. That supposed attack on Enrile's car became one of the regime's most emotionally charged justifications, yet years later, Enrile and Fidel Ramos would admit that the incident had been staged. The revelation shocked millions and cast a shadow of betrayal and manipulation over the period. During martial law, Enrile wielded immense authority. But this power came with heavy consequences. The military dominated everyday life, political freedoms collapsed, and corruption thrived. Enrile controlled logging permits during this era, a responsibility that turned into a devastating environmental tragedy as forests vanished and wealth poured into private hands. He also helped oversee the controversial Cocoa Levy Fund, which enriched Marcos' allies while ordinary coconut farmers suffered. As Marcos's rule decayed in the 1980s, alliances within the regime fractured. Enrile, once a trusted pillar, found himself sidelined. Fear for survival pushed him toward reformist officers in the military, ultimately setting the stage for the dramatic events of 1986. When a Ram-led coup was uncovered, Enrile and Ramos broke from Marcos and sought protection inside military camps along EDSA. In a moment of raw desperation, Enrile pleaded with Cardinal Sin for help, sparking a wave of ordinary Filipinos who flocked to protect them. Those days of courage and solidarity birthed the People Power Revolution, ending Marcos's long rule. Though Enrile hoped for a major role in the post-revolution government, his influence under President Corazon Aquino rapidly soured. His suspicion of communists, public defiance, and alleged involvement in new coup plots pushed him out of the cabinet. Still, Enrile proved politically resilient. He served multiple Senate terms, survived detentions and accusations, and re-emerged repeatedly in public office. But controversies trailed him: election fraud whispers, clashes with fellow senators, and the massive pork barrel scam, in which he faced plunder charges and detention. Even in extreme old age, Enrile surfaced again in national politics as chief presidential legal counsel under President Bongbong Marcos. After decades marked by power, upheaval, loyalty, betrayal, and reinvention, he remained one of the most polarizing and emotionally charged figures in Philippine history. Declining health and passing. As age crept into his always restless life, illness became a constant shadow. From the early 1990s onward, Enrile battled chronic hypertension, diabetes, heart complications, and other age-related illnesses. He endured hospitalizations, pneumonia, and even a positive COVID-19 diagnosis in 2022. His health struggles often unfolded publicly, reflecting the complicated reality of a man who remained active in national affairs despite his frailty. On November 11, 2025, Enrile was reportedly confined to an ICU due to pneumonia. Yet even then, he expressed a desire not to die within sterile hospital walls. 2 days later, on November 13 at 4:21 p.m., he passed away peacefully in his home, surrounded by his family, the final chapter of a life defined by fierce ambition, resilience, and an unyielding place in the heart of Philippine history.